In the quiet of an ordinary day, a successful black lawyer finds himself at the center of an all-too-familiar and deeply troubling encounter. He's pulled over by a police officer, but this isn't a routine traffic stop. The tension is palpable as the officer's demeanor turns hostile, his questions loaded with assumptions. Despite the lawyer's calm professionalism and clear explanation of his identity, the situation escalates, revealing a stark contrast in how justice is supposed to work versus how it often plays out. This is a story about prejudice, power, and resilience. As events unfold, the lawyer uses not just his words, but his profound understanding of the law to fight back. What begins as a moment of injustice soon sparks a much larger reckoning. How far will this officer go? And how will the lawyer turn the tables? Stay tuned to see justice strike back. As the officer's questions became sharper, the lawyer stayed composed, carefully choosing his words. His hands remained visible on the steering wheel, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken rules for survival in such encounters. The officer demanded identification, but his tone hinted at more than routine procedure. The lawyer, aware of the weight of the moment, handed over his license and bar card, quietly stating, "I'm an attorney." The officer's expression faltered for a second before he leaned in closer. "Attorney, huh? We'll see about that." His words dripped with skepticism as he stepped back to run the lawyer's information. The minutes stretched endlessly, each one heavy with tension. Meanwhile, the lawyer's mind raced. Why had he been stopped in the first place? No traffic laws had been broken. His car, immaculate and in perfect condition, offered no reason for suspicion. Was this about his success, or simply the color of his skin? As the lawyer sat in his car, he couldn't ignore the stares of passers-by. Some glanced quickly before walking on, while others lingered, their curiosity adding to his unease. Inside, he replayed every moment leading up to this stop. There was nothing, no reason, no justification. Yet here he was, waiting under the watchful eye of someone who clearly viewed him as guilty before proven otherwise. The officer returned, holding the lawyer's documents, but with a new hostility in his voice. "Step out of the car," he ordered. The lawyer hesitated, his instincts warning him this was about more than just a traffic violation. Still, knowing his rights, he calmly asked, "On what grounds?" The second officer paused, considering the lawyer's words. But just as it seemed the situation might de-escalate, the first officer leaned in. "Check his trunk," he barked, ignoring the lawyer's protests. The lawyer's pulse quickened as he realized the stakes were about to rise even higher. That question seemed to ignite something in the officer, who now had his hand resting on his belt. The lawyer's confidence was unshaken, but the situation was quickly escalating. He knew this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about a much larger battle against an ingrained system of bias. The air grew heavy as the lawyer stepped out of the car, his every movement deliberate and calm. He could feel the weight of the officer's gaze, assessing, waiting for any reason to escalate. Around them, a small crowd had begun to gather, whispers rippling through the onlookers like waves. The lawyer stood tall, his suit crisp, his demeanor unshaken, but inside, his heart raced. He knew how easily situations like this could spiral out of control. The officer demanded to search the car, his voice sharp and commanding. "I don't consent to a search," the lawyer said firmly, his knowledge of the law giving him confidence. That response only seemed to fuel the officer's irritation. "What are you hiding?" he pressed, his tone more accusatory now. The lawyer didn't flinch. "I have nothing to hide," he replied, "but I know my rights." The tension reached a boiling point as another squad car pulled up, lights flashing, adding an ominous edge to the scene. The lawyer glanced at the growing crowd, wondering if anyone would intervene, or if he'd have to face this battle alone. As the second squad car pulled up, a second officer stepped out, his expression unreadable. The first officer whispered something to him, gesturing toward the lawyer and his car. The second officer approached, scanning the scene, his eyes locking with the lawyer's. "What seems to be the issue here?" he asked, his tone calm but authoritative. Before the lawyer could respond, the first officer cut in. Refusing a search, acting suspicious, he's hiding something. The lawyer took a breath, steadying himself. I've been respectful and compliant. There's no probable cause for this stop or a search. Out of nowhere, a bystander stepped forward, phone in hand, recording everything. Why are you targeting him? She demanded, her voice breaking through the tension. The crowd murmured in agreement, their presence becoming an unexpected shield. For the first time, the first officer hesitated, but his determination to assert control hadn't wavered. The lawyer knew the next few moments could change everything, for better or worse. Just as tensions peaked, the second officer stepped forward, eyes flicking between the lawyer and his colleague. Suddenly, the first officer's phone buzzed loudly. He glanced down, frustration evident, before turning back to the lawyer. "Wait here," he muttered, stepping aside. The crowd held its breath, sensing a shift. The second officer approached the lawyer, offering a calm demeanor. "Is everything all right?" he asked quietly. Before the lawyer could respond, the first officer stormed out of the scene, visibly shaken. Moments later, the bystander's video began to gain traction online, attracting attention from local media and civil rights groups. The unexpected public scrutiny forced the department to review the incident. As officers arrived to de-escalate, the lawyer realized his calm stance had ignited a broader movement for justice. Just when it seemed the ordeal was ending, a higher-ranking official stepped in, revealing that the first officer had a hidden agenda tied to past grievances. The story was far from over, hinting at deeper corruption and the true battle for justice that was just beginning. In the days that followed, the video of the incident spread rapidly, sparking outrage and discussions about systemic bias. The lawyer, though shaken, used the platform he had been thrust onto to demand accountability. The first officer was suspended pending an investigation, and the hidden agenda hinted at deeper corruption that now had a spotlight shining on it. The lawyer's calm, steadfast response became a symbol of resilience and the power of knowing one's rights. He partnered with community leaders to push for police reform, ensuring no one else would endure what he had. The bystander who filmed the encounter became a key figure in amplifying the story, proving that collective voices could drive change. As he returned to his everyday life, the lawyer reflected on the moment. He had stood firm not just for himself, but for everyone who'd faced injustice. This wasn't just his story, it was a reminder that justice, though often delayed, can still prevail.